Hey guys, have you ever wondered where SPL actually came from? You know, who were some of the first guys to really do it and really do it well? Um, my name's Mike Barfield. I've been in and around it since I guess about 1986 with my older brother. Becker kicker boxes, stuff like that you mounted to the roof of pickup trucks. Um, but I've been around it such a long time, and I've had a great career, I guess you could say, amateur career, and then going into when everything was combined is considered professional and amateur together. And I helped, I guess I actually was one of the people that actually helped cause that, where my numbers were at the time compared to the pros at the time. Uh, but before I go into where a lot of these people came from, to get SPL to where it is today, let me give you a little background about me. Um, I started competing serious around I guess 1994, I would say, in SPL, National Sound Pressure League, in North Carolina. That's where I'm from Greenville, North Carolina. Um, it kind of was really flourishing in this area. We actually had a lot of car stereo stores that were really, doing really nice installs, professional installs. Um, and I started messing around with a store about 30 miles from where I live at, uh, called Stereo Concepts, and they were one of the bigger stores for car audio uh, in our area. So I went to them, and I had 412s cut through in a Ford Ranger with a Punch 200 on them. And I realized, early that I wanted big, and for 1994, 412s and a cut through was actually a really large stereo system. Um, and I was with them for I guess a couple years, about 2 years, I guess. And what I realized was that there's a lot of the stores were doing really nice installs, but a lot of them didn't. When it came to SPL, didn't. They were in the same boat I was in. It was all a learning process. They had no idea um, what exactly was what to make stuff loud. I mean, it's just where it was at the time. Things were coming out so fast at the time. New amplifiers, at that time, if a 400 watt, a 500 watt amplifier was a big amplifier, and in today's standards, you wouldn't even run that on your highs pretty much. Um, so I actually realized that I needed to do something different. So I started looking around and seeing who was doing some really good stuff, and I found that Creative Acoustics in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is about 75 miles from where I live at. Jay Lovelace was there, and you might not know Jay Lovelace because he's been out of the scene for a good minute, but he's a person that actually beat Alma Gates, and a lot of people know who Alma Gates was, but he was the person that beat her in 1998, the very first DB Drag World Finals. Um, and to give you an example, I'm gonna flip this around. And like I was saying, I had moved and went with a different store. This is Jay's van at the time that he beat Alma Gates. I think it was 174-2 at the time. And he was doing a lot of really loud bass. Back then, they were playing what could be considered high tones, which is anything over 80 hertz. And I think Jay was playing around 160 something at that time. Which Alma was doing the same thing. Everybody was. I actually didn't. I was playing 70 hertz from the beginning. I had a Mats set up. I had the Mats Juggernaut woofers, their 15s, and I had Mats D300s. So a little bit different, but most everybody at that time, that's what brought about the 80 hertz and down rule. So that's where it came from. the numbers were so loud because of the way that they compress the mic. With high tones, it's a lot easier to get the output there because your quarter waves are so short. And I'll get into that later on, explaining to you how you configure quarter waves with the speed of sound and stuff like that on a later video. But I realized that I needed to do something different, and that's where I went to. And I learned a lot of stuff from Jay. He was very, very, very intelligent guy. And I learned some bad things from him. They did cabinet. Their main focus was PA equipment, and so they used a lot of staples and stuff. And at the time, I got my 2412 box from him, but it was all stapled. So I went to probably 3 shows, and then all of a sudden my numbers started falling off, and come to find out, well, it's blown apart. So I had to go in and take out. But what I did learn from him was something that I didn't learn from the previous store, was that your boxes need to be pretty much the same size. Well, I had a hexagon shaped box in my Explorer at the time, and the Explorer, what I found was that each side was a different size because different size in the vehicle, different. That was the way it was built, the tire wheels. So it was just built to accommodate what would go in, and that was bad. Found out that and at the time sealed boxes were what was king, and as many woofers as you could put in it. That was what you've probably heard the notion, cone area is king. Well, it is, and it really is to a point. And that a lot of that boils down to when a woofer actually plays, and the more power you put on it, you think about it as far as a bubble, making a bubble when a woofer plays. So the larger the woofer, the bigger the bubble makes. Well, anytime that your bubbles start colliding each other, you get cancellation, and that is a double-edged sword, especially for guys that like low end, because when you fire something off of a wall, firing it in the opposite direction, or fire it into each other, you get a cancellation. Well, cancellation tends to play about a half octave lower, and it actually really sounds better. So when you're playing it and you're opening your doors and you're doing that, you're actually letting that wave go outside the vehicle, and it actually it tends to sound better because of that, at about a half an octave lower playing. But it's like everything, you learn some things, and you try to take off and absorb as much as you possibly can. And I did that with Jay, and then what I found out was I really needed to do stuff on my own. And get back to some of the guys that I've met, and people that I put me on the right path to where I needed to be at. And like I said, I think the last thing that I was telling you guys about was how that when I was competing, I realized that I needed to do it on my own, and that kind of stuff. And one of the people that I met was a long-haired guy from Concord, North Carolina. His name was Steve Cotton. A lot of people know Tommy McKinney, and they call him the KOB, King of Bass. Well, before there was Tommy McKinney, there was Steve Cotton, and he was the king of bass. And they have an article with him. And this is the article here. And this is his truck. And they named him the king of bass. It was a Soundstream set up with JL woofers. Me doing stuff on my own, I realized that I wanted to build boxes and try different things. And I had an Astro van, so it was a large vehicle. So I just went to building boxes, and I come to find out that wow, a lot of things that that you kind of think are supposed to be, kind of aren't. And that's where I ended up starting at. I had almost like an addiction to it, I guess, as far as testing stuff and coming to find out what works. And perfect example, the last time that I was heavy, I guess would have been 2001 heavy in the stereo stuff, really heavy, that doing it for myself. Other than Haddock and Team 252, and I'm one of their teammates. that on the extreme van. I'm an extreme guy, I always have been. Justin actually came up to me. Justin Haddock did, I guess about a year before that, came up to my house, and I had no idea, because I pretty much took myself off the grid, because like I say, when I get into it, it's one of those deals that's kind of hard to stop. Can't kind of control myself with it. I really, really enjoy it. So I kind of took myself out of it so that I wouldn't be around it. And if you're not around, it's out of sight, it's out of mind, kind of thing. And I had a family that was growing up, two young boys, and now they're both one's 25 and one's getting ready to be 22 in June. So it was one of those things that I kind of needed to step away for that. And but he came up and asked, I said, listen, I'm not interested, Justin. I'll give you some ideas what I would do or what I'd done. Because back then, like I say, in 2001, I was doing bandpass fours, heavy then, doing a lot of testing back then. So, when you look at bandpass fours and sixes, I mean, they're extremely old. So I've got a project that I'm getting ready to start working on, and I want to do some new style boxes to, like fifth order front loaded horns, maybe a transmission line, because I've got it's a Dodge Caravan 2016, so I have a lot. It's a Grand Caravan, so it's deep, like an Astro would be, not quite as wide, but deep like an Astro. So you'll be able to, I'll be able to do some long ported six order type, stuff. Well, transmission line, but on that sense. But I'll be able to try some different stuff to see what new boxes can work. And I think it'll be interesting. It's more going to be on the lines of two speakers, 1 to 2 speakers, because of the lengths of the ports, the way they have to be and stuff. But I think it's going to be interesting. I just wanted to kind of give you a background about where I'm at, and some of the SPL legends that's been around, and where it all came from. And I'm kind of going to give some breakdowns of different people that I know that are in, that helped me grow. I'm going to do one on Jay, like I showed you his van. I'm going to do Jeff Wright, which, a lot of these names you might not know, but once you've seen the videos, you'll know them, and you'll understand what they did to help get it where it is today. And some good stuff, really good stuff. And like I say, I tried to be a sponge around a lot of these guys and pick up and absorb. And, I came back in 2020 and with Team 252, and Justin wanted to know what I was interested in. And like I say, it was, I'm an extreme guy, so that's what we did. And we came out and we set at the Sundown show in 2020. We set the DB Drag World record at that time. I think it was 177.4, and we did all this with 2 speakers. And at the time, I think 176 in North America was what the record was, with 7 or 8 speakers. I want to say. I think RP had it at the time. With what he was doing from where the vehicle he had gotten from someone else, and then he was just doing a little tinkering here and there. But I guess we kind of lit the fire in him, and he's really done really well now and done some really good stuff. I actually have been up and seen him. I drove a truck from 1999 until present. So I would travel up to Chicago sometimes, and when I went to Chicago, I'd stop by his shop and look at him and give him some ideas of what I thought, and we talked. And RP is pretty much, when you see him on the videos that he does, if you know who I'm talking about, he really is pretty much an open guy. He's pretty open minded, and the stuff he's done is really good. He does not mind that. The one thing that I noticed a lot of people. And I'll get into another video about that, as far as when you're starting your system and you're trying to be loud, and I don't mean that in the sense of as demoing. I mean actually loud on the meter, and that's your gold. There's a few basic rules that you follow, and if you stick to those rules, they will treat you good. They will the outcomes will be where you want to be with them. The biggest problem with it is you can't just throw a box in and say, I want to do 8 speakers or 12 speakers or whatever. every vehicle, like I was explaining before, the speakers make a bubble, so you can't. And I want to say there's a video with Derek Haddock from Sundown, and it's a perfect example. He had 418s in his Blazer, and yet two were predominantly louder, and the reason for that is because the way a woofer plays, and you put more power to it, its bubble gets bigger. It encloses if you don't have enough space in front of it in a fourth order, in the middle chamber. It's gonna make the bubble bigger than what the chamber is once it's playing. And it becomes that two woofers are better than four with enough power on them. And so it's one of those things you really want to start out with one or two woofers maximum, for the size cabin that you're going to be playing in, or in size chamber that you're going to be playing inside your vehicle, and then work from there. But that'll be another story, another time, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you, guys.